Okay, so the February 8th meeting of the Faculty Senate will come to order. Welcome, everyone. We do have a quorum. So as usual, before we launch into the agenda, I've just got a couple of reminders. So after each presentation or report, you'll have the opportunity, if you're a senator, to ask questions or offer comments or feedback. Senators, you can talk. Or you can use the chat function. Please raise your hand to speak. And when you do that, you'll be recognized first. To raise your hand, you can either click on the hand raise icon that's at the bottom of your screen if you've updated Zoom, and if you haven't and you don't see the icon, you can go down to the screen and click on the participants icon, and then you should be able to raise your hand from there. If you would like to speak, please be sure to wait to be recognized. And when you are recognized, please announce your first and last name and your college. According to Robert's rules, senators are permitted to speak up to 2 times on any one motion. And so if a motion's on the floor and you've already been recognized 2 times, you may not be recognized a 3rd time. And then lastly, senators and panelists, if you aren't speaking, please mute your microphones. So our first order of business is the approval of the minutes from our January 11th Senate meeting. The meeting minutes have been distributed as an annex in your agenda. Are there any additions or corrections to the minutes from the January meeting? Okay, hearing no corrections, the minutes are approved as written. So then next up is our report from President Gee.
Thank you, Natalie. And I know how it is when you get put over into a corner somewhere. I've had some of that problems too, so I hope you're doing well, and I hope everyone can hear me. So let me just say a couple of things. First of all, Natalie said that she had received a question from one of our colleagues about the fact that there was some notations in the newspaper about moving the state or the state is moving to do away with this income tax. And I think that there is a strong effort to do that. And certainly in the long term, I support that. I think that having lived in Tennessee where they had no income tax, it was a boon to economic growth and development. Certainly we see that in Florida and Texas and a couple of other places. Saying that, our state income tax represents about $2.5 billion of our $4.3 billion budget in the state. So if they were to abolish it immediately, we would of course have a major economic crisis, and the university would be right front and center. And people are always focusing on our budget anyway. We want them to focus on it as an investment, not as an expenditure. And so saying that, I think that there is strong support to take a look at the economic valuation of no income tax. But I do believe that they will continue to look at this as a long-term proposition and figure out ways to substitute other potential taxes for the income tax. And as you know, our property taxes are very low, and there are a number of different considerations. But I believe that at least for the near foreseeable future, that we are not going to have to be dealing with that as a university issue. I think that will be a state issue, and hopefully they'll be able to work that through in the right way. And we as a university are obviously very helpful to them. So Natalie, I hope that answers that particular question. And I wanted to make certain that you had that. If there's any questions on that, I'd be happy to take them right now. Does someone want to ask the question? I think I saw a question.
Yep, it's in the chat from Brent McCusker. The replacement of the income tax with sales tax, which is being proposed, is incredibly regressive and exacerbates inequality. It's a comment.
Yeah, it is. it is. I mean, we know that. That's the reason I say that I think the better heads need to get together and determine how we can best make that happen. And they did away with the sales tax, I think, before I came. At least they reduced it. So, and we know that's a regressive tax. As I say, our property taxes are very low, so we'll have to figure out other means. But I hope we do it with clear heads. Anything else? Any other questions? So one of the things I thought maybe I'd just take a second, and I hate to take, because I know I have a long agenda, but I'm just going to do this very quickly because I've been on a number of panels recently where I've been asked, and certainly by other presidents and news organizations, what I think we can learn from the pandemic to apply to a post-COVID world. And my own thinking right now, Natalie, and all of my colleagues here, is the fact that we need to stop thinking about the COVID world we're in, even though we are in the middle of a pandemic, but we are managing it. You are, I am, the university is managing it. So we really do need to be thinking about the post-COVID world. So what I've done is I've developed four or five suggestions, which I just want everyone to think about. These are, of course, no pride in authorship, and these are things that I really think that I've learned. But I'll try to go over them rather quickly. First of all, I think we must reaffirm and reframe our governance of our university for efficiency and agility, no doubt about it. By that I mean on all levels. The Board of Governors has done an excellent job over the last several years of accelerating their deliberations, and they have gone through a major restructuring. But we do live, as we well know, in a world in which a demand for transparency can be an impediment to speed, yet we must drive ourselves, of course, towards speed, and I think that's important. So I can underscore enough how much I appreciate the leadership of our faculty senate. I really do. We've been very blessed with great leadership, but I must also say that I think our faculty governance structure must be seriously reviewed as to how we can improve its structure and function. I believe particularly in this time, and we've talked about shared governance, we don't spend enough time talking about shared responsibility, and part of that responsibility as faculty colleagues is to streamline committee structures and policies so that we move swiftly from ideas toward action. The second thing is we just have to learn from this pandemic is it's essential to rethink all of our financial models. We have to ask the question, what is it we can support? What is it that is essential to the university? And how can we create new sources of revenue? I think that you all know that I'm very driven toward that, and I think that will be absolutely essential for the university over the next decade or so. And the third thing is we must articulate our university's value to the public. I am constantly surprised that the American public does not really understand and support higher education in general. When I became a university president, I think I've shared this with some of you, when I became a university president in 1980 here, 95% of the American public thought higher education was critical or important. Now it's below 50%. Some of you know I've been doing this trilogy for Johns Hopkins Press. My second book is at the press right now, which I call Fallen Angels, and it's really about what has happened. Why are we more important than ever as universities, and why is the public support so low? So we have to answer that question. Now, of course, as a land-grant university in a small state, I think we've done a better job than most in articulating our value to the people of the state, but that is an issue that we have to constantly remind ourselves of, and we have to be viewed in the hearts and minds of West Virginians as their most critical asset. The fourth thing I was just say is our university must accelerate toward opportunity. My candid observation is this, is that universities do an excellent job of getting to where they should have been yesterday. We are just not, we just don't accelerate toward the sun. We tend to accelerate toward the sunset. And we need to really rethink that very carefully. And we should also remember that this is a very vulnerable time. This is my fifth point: as higher education institutions is very vulnerable, and certainly we are vulnerable as a university. We must build institutional resilience, and I'm going to underscore that word. By the year 2040, I know that some of this will give you heartburn, but the ivory tower will be rubble. It's going to be a much different place. So the resilient research university will become a bustling town square, a gathering place for teachers and learners, scientists and innovators, accessible through multiple physical and virtual gateways. We just need to accept that. We need to accept that that's what the university is going to look like in the future. The thriving university is going to look like in the future. So I just wanted, Natalie, I just wanted to share that today because I get asked this question a lot. Where do I see the world? You know, I'm not a wizard. I'm certainly not a seer or a revelator, but I do see the world that way, and I think it's something that we, as university community, need to look at. Certainly, any of these issues are very debatable, but I do believe that that is going to be the driving metric for where we are over the next period of time. And I'm open to any questions, or anyone can really send me notes and say I disagree with this. I think that's right, because I'm really trying to hone this message as we go into the legislative session about the importance of our university.
There's a question on the floor. Parviz, go ahead.
Hi, President Gee. I want to finish the new business from last time. Last January, you thanked the faculty for what they're doing. And I just want to say, as a faculty member, I thank the administration of what they're doing and navigating us through this challenging time. And so thank you and all your team. And the other thing is, in December, I said university relationship, basically the top administration with the governor and governor office, is a good thing. And I want to congratulate you and Clay Marsh and all your team for what you're doing for West Virginia, and how you put West Virginia on the news all over. Usually we're not on the good side, but this time we were on the good side. So thank you.
Well, I appreciate that. You know, and for those of you who haven't seen it, the New York Times has a significant article on West Virginia, the fact that we are in a powerful position to, and we need to determine what we want to do. The Atlantic just came out with an article written by Chris Martin about how we have dealt with the pandemic. And, you know, it's great to know that we have ranked at the top, #1 in terms of vaccinations and dealing with the pandemic. And so I'm very proud of our university because, as you know, our governor turned over much of the force of pandemic response to the university, our health system, and General Hoyer, who was the head of the National Guard until very recently. I thank you for that.
Other questions? Comments? Okay, hearing none, we'll move on to our report from Provost Reed.
Thank you, Natalie, and good afternoon, everyone. So President Gee talked about the future, and I'm going to talk first a little bit about the present and where we are in relation to COVID and a start to the semester. So to begin with, we have had a relatively smooth start to our spring semester, minus our 2 half-day snow days. I will say that the first snow day on January 20th took us a bit by surprise, in part because it was a late moving storm, but also because we didn't have our COVID teaching protocols in place, which we now do. So again, as a reminder to all of you, if there are any more days of inclement weather, and the roads are treacherous to drive, and we are quote unquote closing campus, we will automatically switch to online or remote instruction, so as not to lose any more days of instruction. So because we did lose that first half day of instruction, we have had to change the academic calendar. And so to confirm, Monday, May 3rd, which was a finals prep day, is now become another day of instruction. And that's because of our HLC and Department of Education requirements that we have a certain number of days of instruction. Our COVID, an update on our COVID cases. I'm sure you all can see that by looking at the information that we share daily, but there have been an increase in cases since we started the semester, which is to be expected because we have been testing like crazy. But our positivity rate has hovered around 2% for students and under 1% for faculty. So, all things considered, we feel like it's pretty manageable at this point, although of course we're always watching to see if there's any changes, in behavior and spikes and that we need to be aware of. We have our testing protocols in place. So on the Morgantown campus, we tested over 20,000 people, students, faculty, and staff prior to the start of the semester. As you know, it was a requirement that anybody on campus had to demonstrate a negative COVID test. And we're currently engaged in sample testing at least 1,000 students on a weekly basis with a mix of PCR and antigen tests. We're now in vaccination mode. We began vaccinating faculty and staff at the end of December with the Moderna vaccine. We has, as of Friday, we have delivered first doses to 830 employees and second doses to 240 employees, and 697 doses to HSC students who are have clinical rotations and are facing patients. We've had a limited supply. HEPC has increased its supply to us for this month. We're expecting about 1,500 doses. And the plan is to deliver the first dose of the vaccine to everyone who is 50 to 59 years or older, and who took the survey and said that they wanted to be tested. And the goal is to test all of the people in that population by the end of February. And that would lead to second shots being delivered by March 26th. So after March, the end of March, it looks like getting out of the testing our own employees business. And at that point, the state wants all vaccines to be conducted at these large community sites. And that's why we asked everyone to also sign up through the new system on the state's website. And that's because they want to start making sure that everybody who is 65 or older in the state gets their vaccine. This is largely based on age because the mortality rates are much higher the older of the population. And so we will be finishing up our vaccines again by the end of March, it looks like. I know there'll be a couple questions about that. I'll answer that at the end. Because we've had, I think because we're keeping the virus relatively contained, we've had a return to research, an increase, I would say, in our research activities. The research office announced today that clinical trials, enrollment in all of our clinical trials will resume in person, or they're allowed to resume in person. With, of course, the COVID safety protocols in place, and human subject research requiring face-to-face interaction will also resume again with that the COVID protocols, safety protocols in place. We will be launching our new Maymester at the end of the spring semester, and I want to remind you this is a 3-week accelerated part of term that is similar to winter intersession. But because of COVID, and we're still not sure about what things are going to look like in May, Maymester will be delivered completely online. We're thinking that Maymester will be popular just as our winter intersession term has become. I mean, we've had incredible increase in the percentage of students who are enrolled in winter session. So we had a 33% increase from last year for this winter session. We think Maymester may be equally popular. We are looking at summer camps. I know that many academic units, in addition to extension, have camps over the summer, and we are working with our healthcare experts and our academic leaders to determine which camps will be able to be run this summer, in which, what capacity, and whether they will be residential or not. A group is meeting this week, comprised of faculty and key staff, and they're going to be straw modeling what the guidelines and protocols may look like. And our hope is by mid-March, we will have made a decision about summer camps and be able to share that with you all. Let's see. The Refresh series, as you know, Student Life has had this Refresh series, which has a number of activities for students to be engaged, including physical activities and outdoor activities. And Melissa Latimer has been working with Student Life to see if they could do something similar for faculty. So I wanted Melissa just to share an update on that.
Sure. I just want to say thanks to Corey Ferris, Nathan Harlan, and Joel Brown, who've helped put this together. After I just give a quick overview, I'll drop the link into the chat so that people can go. They actually built a web page out so that people can just drop in there and take a look and see what's coming up. I'll just give you some ideas. They've got register buttons and dates. The first is a Children's Dental Health Month activity. That's starting February 17th. There is Plan Your Perfect Outdoor Adventure. That's February 25th. Read Across America Day, which is a Dr. Seuss birthday, my favorite author. Kids Zone celebrates St. Patrick's Day. Movement and Your Mental Health. WVU Employee and Family Day at Milan Pool. Mountain Bike Seminar. There's a Dory's Dinner Party. This is where you get a menu and you actually pick up the food that you'll be prepping. So there's a whole series of things that they put together for both faculty and staff. And again, I'll just drop that link in the chat.
That's great. Thank you very much, Melissa, for that. In other non-COVID items, just a couple of them. One, in case, I haven't talked about this with you before, we have hired a new dean of the law school, Amelia Reinhardt, who comes to us from University of Utah. Amelia was hired as part of the search process. She is a really outstanding person, came highly recommended, and made a great impression during her virtual and her in-person visit to campus. And she's got a lot of really interesting strengths. One of them is that she has a background, she's an engineer as well as an attorney and a patent lawyer. And we think that that will really help us, or that she can contribute to our efforts in entrepreneurship and startups. And so Amelia will be joining our university on July 1. We're excited about that. I want to update you briefly on academic transformation. We are moving ahead with our efforts at academic transformation. And as a reminder, President Gee delivered the charge to academic affairs at our December Board of Governors meeting, and that he charged that we re-examine our academic portfolio, our academic programs, our academic student support services, our current configurations of colleges and departments and other academic units, with the goal of ensuring that we can continue to position the university to be highly relevant to our current and future students and to the industries and communities that we serve. And part of that effort, he charged us to find new opportunities for growth and investment, and to find efficiencies in our programming and processes that will allow us to realign resources towards those growth opportunities. This is part of a larger process of strategic transformation that the university began, really started several years ago. But the focus right now in my office is on the academic part of that effort. And as you may recall, at the last meeting, Rob Alsop shared that we continue to work in a resource constrained environment, although that is certainly not the only reason for academic transformation. Some updates for you on our progress. My office will be announcing soon, within probably a week, the membership of an advisory committee comprised primarily of faculty. So there are 23 members of that committee. 19 of those people are faculty. This is a group that is comprised of people that were recommended or nominated by Natalie and Ashley Martucci, who's going to be chairing that committee. Every college on the main campus is represented, in addition to Potomac State and Tech, as well as libraries and extension. And it's a mix of people with different backgrounds, different stages in their academic careers, but they're all really strong people who come highly recommended. And nearly half of the faculty are faculty senators. So that group will be reviewing the data and analysis that my office will be generating, along with data provided by external sources, including the EAB. And they will be providing constructive feedback that will help to shape our findings and recommendations. They'll be meeting twice a month with EAB analyst David Addis, and those meetings will start next week, February 17th. And so I think this is a really great group, and I'm excited about their engagement in the process. We'll have 3 other committees that are going to be operating and addressing issues of academic transformation. And those groups will include faculty. One is the Student Success Committee, formerly named the Retention Committee, that will be led by Evan Witters. That is going to look at both short-term and, I would say, long-range plans to increase our student retention, our persistence, and our completion rates, because we really know, frankly, that is where really we can generate more significant revenues if we can increase those rates. So we're going to take a hard look at what we're doing in student success. There is a Faculty Rewards and Recognition Committee that is almost entirely faculty, and that's led by Presha Niedermeyer, and a Graduate Education Task Force led by Richard Thomas that will be looking at doctoral programs. So there'll be these various ways that faculty can engage with what we're doing, offer feedback, and help to shape, help to shape our work. And I think that is, the last thing to say about it is the goal is to present a first set of recommendations to the Board of Governors in June, at that June board meeting. But this really is an ongoing effort. This is a 2 to 3 year effort. And it's not, we certainly want to jumpstart this process this year and recommend some changes, but it's going to also, I think it's going to take 3 years, number one, to see those changes through, but also to address a lot of different issues around academic transformation, including things like parts of term. If we come up with an accelerated, these 3-week terms, a 3-year degree programs, and a variety of things that that will help us transform the institution. And that's really what I have to share with you today.
So there are lots of questions for you, Provost Reed, but we're going to start with folks who've raised their hands first. So
Okay.
Heidi Samuels, go ahead.
I'm sorry, I don't know how that happened. I was moving my computer. I don't have it.
Okay, no problem. All right, so Drew, are you ready?
Yeah, sure. This is Drew Nix from the Statler College. Sorry, my camera's not working.
Hi, Drew.
I know there's a lot of people that have the same question over there in the chat, and I'm one of them, and I have sent
Sure.
messages to the COVID vaccine email address, and I'm really quite concerned about how things are going with the plans for future vaccinations. Those of us who are under 50, a lot of us are very close to the cutoff.
Yeah.
Some of us have pre-existing conditions or high-risk conditions that put us in a high-risk group, and we teach, in some cases like mine, 100% in class. Like,
Yeah.
I'm really anxious for a vaccination, and it sounds like I'm just going to get tossed into the general pool in the county where I watch. You know, my wife has already been vaccinated at the kindergarten level, so I'm really concerned about whether or not I'm going to ever see a vaccine. And so,
Yeah.
and I think a lot of people had the same comment on here.
Yeah, well, thank you for that, Drew. What I might suggest too is that we bring somebody like a Jeff Coben to maybe the next faculty or to your next faculty senate meeting to talk a little bit more detail about why the state has chosen to go in this direction. You know, I can neither defend, the state nor fully represent why the state is going in this direction. But I do believe that the decision was made early on that age was going to be the primary factor in determining who got the vaccine first. And, we are dependent on the vaccines that are delivered to us from the state. And this is how, this is what the state has decided. And so I certainly think that your concerns are valid. And I will share those concerns. But I can just tell you that some of this is out of our hands.
If I might just continue real quick. I mean,
Sure.
I don't want to cause any problems, but for those of us who are teaching in class, I mean, and we have concerns about not getting vaccinated at this point, can we change our minds and not teach in class? I mean, that's and I thought we were told that face-to-face teaching would be a priority.
Right.
And what the state's doing, but yeah, anyway, that's just my opinion. If we wait till next month, I mean, most of us were hoping to be vaccinated before next month.
Yeah, well, I hear you, Drew, and I would just say, right, we still have a limited supply, and the state made that decision to prioritize people who are older. As much as we know we have faculty that are face-to-face, our classrooms have been safe. We have not, as far as we know, we do not have faculty that have contracted it through interaction in the classrooms. And so, prior to having the vaccine, we have a process of faculty accommodations, and we've been very generous about those accommodations for faculty. So, I mean, what I'd say to you is, we're doing our best, but we truly believe our classrooms are safe, and there is a venue for folks who have pre-existing conditions to ask for accommodations to not teach in the classroom.
Provost Reed, would it be possible to have Jeff Coben and Clay Marsh speak sooner than Faculty Senate, so this week or next week?
Yeah, I mean, I mean, do some sort of a meeting that's like
a town hall.
Yeah, town hall kind of. I can't speak for them, but I will certainly ask, because that requires a lot of setup. But I understand there's still some anxiety about vaccines.
Well, this is Gordon speaking. I can't speak for them, and I will say that we'll do that. I think that that's an important issue for us to deal with. And I hear the concern. As the provost said, some of this is controlled by the distribution now, and the availability. As you know, the new administration has pledged to increase the distribution. They're now up to about 1.4 million doses a day, and there may well be a significant growth in that. So that all is good for West Virginia, because we immediately, when we get doses, we get them into the arms, unlike places like California or New York or other places where they haven't seen any arms yet. So I think that the question is both legitimate. Yeah, but we can get both Dr. Coben and Dr. Marsh to have a town meeting or a town hall to explain A, what we're doing, and B, your own vulnerability. I think that that's important for you to understand, because we need to take a look at the data. The data are very clear that right now, in-person teaching has both at the K through 12 level and the university level has had very little, if any, vulnerability in the classroom.
I see the questions in the chat, but are there other folks who want to voice their questions or comments? Okay, so we'll move to the chat. So this one, the Kaiser COVID dashboard does not seem to be tracking vaccines delivered. When will the dashboard be updated with this information? Do you have any of that information, Provost Reed, or is there anybody?
Are they talking about are you talking about the dashboard that we share with the daily dashboard?
Caitlin, is that what you mean? Caitlin Hudgens?
The WVU dashboard that we share? I
believe that's what.
Oh yeah, the daily. So it doesn't mention, I don't know, but I'll find out.
Okay.
Yep.
Next question. So no faculty under 50 will be vaccinated, even faculty teaching face-to-face. This is what Senator Nix had just talked about, even though other West Virginia schools have been vaccinated most of their faculty. So West Virginia State, for example, is a school that's vaccinated most of their faculty and staff. They've all gotten at least one dose. So everybody. And so it's really frustrating to see schools around the state, institutions of higher education where faculty and staff are vaccinated, and now hearing that we're not going to be, we're not going to be fully vaccinated or even partially vaccinated, so.
I get it.
I'm also feeling frustrated. Okay, so let's see next. Why aren't faculty teaching face-to-face classes getting priority? And what about faculty with other pre-existing conditions who are at high risk? That's a question from Heather Billings, also echoed. Let's see. The university statement on December 11 stated that the original priority was both 65 and over and face-to-face. Why drop the face-to-face prioritization?
Yeah, that's a good question. Again, I feel like we should have our healthcare experts who are guiding this effort address that in some sort of town hall or a campus conversation. But my understanding is the state, again, was prioritizing age.
And then this one, once the rest of the faculty are thrown into the general public pool, will the state university original prioritization of faculty as being in 1D be respected, or are all faculty being thrown into the public pool?
Good question.
Okay. So I can collect some of these vaccine questions and send them along to Jeff Coben and Clay Marsh.
Why don't you send them to Gordon and me?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. And work with you to get a town hall set up. Yeah. Okay, so I think these questions are not about vaccines. This next ones. Are there any special programs being set up to help first-time freshmen adjust to the university? This was, I think, this question came up after the Refresh series we talked about. So any special programs being set up to help first-time freshmen adjust to the university given the 1.5 years of educational disruption?
I know there are a number of activities and efforts aimed at our freshmen this year that are being offered virtually. So I can't list them all, but there are a series of them in addition to mental health support, but lots of activities, lots of engagement. But long term, we're going to have to take a deeper look at this.
Yeah. So this is another question connected to the past one raised by Amy Hessel. So Amy raised a very good question. Many faculty have the same concerns to the math, chemistry, and physics. Our new freshmen can handle in their semesters at WVU. I wonder if, or I think, and maybe this senator would like to explain kind of what they mean, but I think that they may be speaking to the course content and the support that they might need in that area. Is that correct? Hyland Lee, did you want to elaborate?
I'll elaborate. This is Amy
Okay.
Hessel. My original question was related to the content and sort of like, I was thinking about STEM students, but I think it applies to all students. And it actually seems like maybe there's an opportunity there for us to get them started a little bit earlier than we normally would. I know they're really excited to get started already.
Amy, I think Evan Witters has a few thoughts he'd like to share.
Yeah, Amy, it's a great question. And I'd be lying to say that it weren't very concerning how well these students are going to do in the STEM Foundation courses. Our students are always challenged by those courses, even when they've had, their regular high school experience. So, I mean, one of the things we did do was go test optional, which probably doesn't help them pass their STEM Foundation classes, but does mean if they weren't able to take an SAT or an ACT, they could still get scholarships. They could still be admitted to a program. They could take ALEX later. And so test into whatever math and chemistry courses they need, later in the summer, rather than having to do it in their senior year. That's some of the things. We're also trying to streamline our tutoring processes and centralize training more on that to provide more resources for these students. But it will be a challenge. There's no doubt about it. I have a 16-year-old kid who's doing all his courses online at the high school at MHS, and it's hard to say. I mean, he goes and it seems to be okay, but it's hard to say what actually people will know, especially in maybe smaller counties that have more difficulty moving online. So to sum up, we're looking at it really closely and trying to find any solutions we can. I'd be happy to hear if you have any ideas on how to get these kids through those classes, because it will be a challenge. You're absolutely right.
Thanks, Amy. I'm still looking through the chat. It looks like the rest of the questions may be about the vaccines and folks expressing a lot of frustration, people being upset, and a lot. I mean, there's a lot of that. So I'll make sure that you have all of these comments, that you see all of them.
That'd be great.
Okay.
Yeah, and we will with Gordon's support, we will set up some sort of dialogue to address this specific issue in the next week or so.
And I see Dave Hauser has his hand up. Dave, go ahead.
Yeah, I don't want to speak for Amy, but I'm going to try to interpret what she was asking. I think that and Evan was asking for specific suggestions. Could we think about running some actual summer programs for students that are coming out of high school to get them more ready for college experiences, given that we expect to be back in person in the fall? Again, if you're looking for revenue enhancement at the university, there's lots of opportunity, it seems to me, for both students and parents who are anxious about transitioning to college to make some money to try to fend off some of the budget issues and get those students ready for the things that they're going to be encountering in a real college environment in the fall, given they haven't been in a regular classroom for a year and a half, as she said. And again, I don't want to speak for Amy, but I think that was kind of what she was getting at.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was getting at. And these kids want to start college as soon as humanly possible. They are ready.
Yeah.
They just spent a year and a half at home.
Yeah. So Natalie characterized this as a summer bridge program, right?
We do run summer bridge, and we run sections of, like, for instance, Math 122, which is the math we use to get students up to speed for their next math courses. I think we'll also work on scaling that effort to making it able to accommodate more students. Another thing we do is we've moved towards block scheduling during new student orientation, which allows us to cohort students better, putting the same students in the same majors in the same, STEM foundation classes. So there is a lot of things in play. And to Dave's point, often Summer Bridge is one example, the Math 122 is another, but those are run at very reasonable prices, under in-state tuition, just to try to get people here. Statler has one where you come in a week early and learn study skills. So we have some, but scaling them is definitely something we'll look at for this summer.
Yeah, there's some good ideas in the chat. Some talk about, can we use some COVID funds to support this? And so these are all really good suggestions.
Yeah, again, let me just pipe in, and I'm sorry, this is important stuff. First of all, we know that there's a tremendous mental health challenge out there for these young people. All of us are feeling it, but certainly many of them have become very isolated in so many different ways, and obviously we know that the academic challenges that they've had have been just enormous, and so we have to do everything we possibly can to prepare them. And remember, one of the things we've done because of what has happened is we've made tests optional, a number of things, because we want to make certain that our diversity and our equity issues are and availability issues are all being addressed. I think that that's important. So, I think we'll do everything we possibly can. And I think it is very important, but this is a once in a lifetime issue. So we're trying to just get ahead of it in some ways. I do want to address, because I know that all these questions about the vaccine, if the university had the ability to vaccinate everyone, we would. You know that. We're not withholding it. We have used every bit of the vaccine that has come our way. And in fact, one of the things we've done, we've been very successful, because most of the vials hold only five particular shots, but our folks figured out how to get 6 out of them in a number of ways. And so I don't quite know what the state limitations are, but we'll certainly look at bending that curve as much as we can. But I have to remind everyone, and I taught in person in the fall, and I'm older probably than anyone on this in this call, and I followed the protocols, and I taught in person for the whole semester. And remember the CDC guidelines, which have just come out again, which they reaffirmed that classroom teaching for both K through 12 and colleges, that there's no evidence of passage or very little evidence. So just follow the protocols. And if you're doing that and the CDC guidelines are there, then we're living within what is possible. But I understand the frustration. I understand the anger. I just want to tell you, if I had the magic wand and wave it and would give everyone a shot, I would do it immediately, because I think that would be, and I'm encouraged that people want to get shots. 51% of the American public do not want to get shots, which to me is just absolutely absurd. So just understand, we'll do everything we possibly can, but also you can't, fear does not get us a shot, but fear can cause a lot of angst, in which it is not by the science is not proven to be necessarily what we ought to be dealing with. There we go. Natalie?
Anything else before we move on? Okay. So next on our agenda, item 4, we have a presentation by Karen Diaz, the Dean of the Libraries, who will be talking to us about their new vendor policy. Karen, are you ready?
I am. Thank you very much. Thank you all for having me, and thanks to the executive committee to give me space on the agenda today. I'm going to take you away from COVID issues and on to something that started before COVID and will continue afterwards. And I came to the Faculty Senate back in November of 19 to talk about some of the new challenges that we're facing in acquiring scholarship in the libraries and making it available. So much is changing in that arena as we move into the digital age, and we've had challenges around our budgets, and we've had challenges around vendor prices inflating at a rate that are beyond anybody else's inflation rate. And so the entire library community has been doing a lot to try to change the face of how we work with vendors. And in light of this, our library's Collection Advisory Committee has come up with some new principles that we are adopting and are working towards in all of our negotiations with vendors. And we wanted to bring your attention to this this new set of principles that we're working under. They were originally billed as a policy, and we realized in our conversation with the executive committee that that's too strong of a word. They're actually principles under which we are working because we don't exactly abide by every single one every time. But I have asked Beth Royal, who is the chair of our Collections Advisory Committee, to just go over some of the details of that document with you. So Beth, I'll turn it to you.
Thank you. So yeah, I'm Beth Royal, Evansdale Library, and can you hear me all?
Yep.
Okay, thanks. So I am currently chairing our Collections Advisory Committee at WVU Libraries, and we make many of the decisions about the journal and database renewals. And of course, as Karen said, our goal is always to make as much content available as possible while staying within our budget. And these licensing principles are one more effort in this direction. And I thought today I would just highlight a few of the principles that might be of most interest to you all. So I'm going to try my share screen power. And so here on your agenda, we've given you a link to the, which we originally called vendor policy, but since we've renamed it, you'll see it redirects to licensing principles for vendors. And you can, they're not all that long. You can read through all of them at your, at your convenience, but I thought I'd just mention a couple. Transparency. So I don't know if you'll be surprised at this or not, but this is a move on our part to eliminate non-disclosure agreements. These non-disclosure agreements result in uneven and we consider unfair pricing across institutions. And it may seem exciting to haggle over prices in an international bazaar, but it's not a very rational way to deal with contracts that some of which can run in the 6 or 7 figures. So libraries, including WVU, have even resorted to freedom of information requests to break through these non-disclosure agreements and begin to understand how our contracts compare to to our peer institutions. So this transparency principle is just putting our the people we do business with on notice that as much as possible, we are not going to include non-disclosure agreements. Author rights. This one, for all you authors out there, this is our principle that we think no author should be compelled or required by a publisher to relinquish copyright to their work. Authors don't even always realize that a publisher can be negotiated with to allow for more author control. And again, it's not all, some publishers will not change their agreement with authors, but others are open to negotiation. And the more we ask for this, the more you as authors ask for this, the better off we are. So one of the things that we would like, one of our principles here is that we want you to be able to immediately deposit your own scholarly work into our research repository and make it available to the world. So interlibrary loan is something that we depend on heavily, and you might, again, not realize that our electronic resources are covered by contract law, which can trump the copyright law. So copyright law, there are specific provisions that give us the right to do interlibrary loan, and that covers our print resources quite well. but our electronic resources, which we have more and more of, are covered by contract laws. So we want our contracts to give us the ability to continue to be a good interlibrary loan partner, even as more and more of our, say, our ebooks of our books become electronic. So those are just some of the examples of the principles that we've outlined here. And you can read them all at your leisure, but I'm gonna turn it back to Karen. And I see a question, let's see, from my neighbor, Nick. This is for, you know, Nick, that is such a good question. And I am, I didn't warn him about this, but I am gonna put the email into the chat box for our scholarly communications librarian, Ian Harmon. And he is fantastic he knows this stuff. So he, besides scholarly communications, includes our research repository. So you can reach out to so Nick, your liaison librarian would be Barbara Hengemill, but she's probably going to help put you in touch with Ian Harmon.
So yeah, that is a great question. And one of the reasons we like to present on these principles is so that you kind of understand some of the dynamics that we're working with, and also recognizing that you have a role in this landscape as well. And kind of leading to that, one of the things that we were hoping could come from talking to you about these principles is some sort of endorsement from the Faculty Senate on these. So we have a few folks in the libraries that have to go single-handedly to our vendors and ask for these types of accommodations. And if they can go and say, the WV Faculty Senate approves of this and endorses this, and this is how they want us to do business, it really gives us strength in the work that we do in getting this done. So one thing we are hoping is that at some point in time, the Faculty Senate would provide us with a full-fledged endorsement of these principles.
Are there other questions for Dean Diaz or Beth Royal? Okay. We may have a motion from the floor. Oh, there's a question from Amy Welsh, or Amy Welsh's hand is raised. Amy, go ahead.
I just had a comment, and I don't know if this, can you hear me? Okay. Yeah. If this would help with the negotiations, but you know, faculty are often doing free peer reviews for these journals and these vendors. And I would think that that would be a negotiation point because they rely on peer reviews, but we're often uncompensated for that. So just a comment.
An excellent comment, and that has always been the case, and that has never been accommodated for in any of the payments that we make to these publishers. And it's a valid point, and it points to the fact that this is really a whole ecosystem that we're all working in together. And so the more we kind of all get on board with each other around this, the better. And I might even suggest that those of you who do that free labor for the publishers, point that out to them and say, you know what, I'm doing this for free. Maybe you would like to give my library a break on what you charge them for this journal.
Okay, I see a hand from Dave Hauser. Dave, go ahead.
Yeah, so following up on the request of Dean Diaz, then I would like to make a motion that the WU Senate endorse the library licensing principles for vendors, and sort of through that motion express our support for the efforts of the WU library system to enhance faculty research, teaching, and service.
There's I can never remember if we discussed the motion first and then there's a second, or if there's a second and then we discuss.
A second first and then discuss.
Second first, thank you. Okay, so there is a second, great. Thank you, Mary Ann. Okay, so questions or comments or revisions to the motion anyone would like to propose? Okay. All those in favor, please raise your hand. Okay, I'm going to call the vote. Okay. Julie, can you clear the hands? Clear again, just make sure they're clear. Any opposed? Please raise your hand. Okay, motion to endorse the vendor principles it is approved. Very good.
Thank you so much, and thanks everyone for your time today. We really appreciate it.
Hi, Natalie.
Yes.
Will we need to communicate something to the library about this motion so that they have a document they can use with the vendors?
So what we probably will do, we actually have at the bottom of that document right now online, we have the fact that our own library faculty endorsed this. And I think that what we could do now is to just add to the bottom of that document the fact that it was endorsed by the Faculty Senate today. And that provides us with information to the vendors then.
Very good.
Thanks for the question.
Yeah, thanks. Okay, very good. Thanks again, Dean Diaz and Beth.
Thanks.
Okay, on to my report. So you might have noticed if you logged on early to Senate that the music leading up to the meeting was a bit different than the music that's been played in the past. And so the songs that were played were from faculty musicians across campus, including our senators, Jared Sims, Michael Germana, Josh Arthurs, as well as Melissa Latimer, Chris Pline, Dunk Lorimer, and Mary Angel Blount, and Chris Haddix. So I collected music from them willingly. I did. They were all willing participants. And I have lots of other music from other colleagues across campus. And their music will be featured at future Faculty Senate meetings. And, you know, this was just something done to kind of celebrate the creativity and the talent and the passion of folks across campus. So, and it is nice to listen to something that's not this sort of like a, you know, that's instrumental free stuff. So they were all, you know, happy and excited to share. So I can post a little bit later the list of the songs that were played, so you can see the songs and the artists. I'll ask Judy to post that to the listserv. So other updates that I have, classroom engagement panel, Senate hosted, took place on January 12th, and it was well attended. We had over 100 participants. And so we are planning on doing a second installment after midterm, and this one will focus on engagement on online instruction. And the tentative date is March 15th, but stay tuned for more information. Faculty health and well-being continues to be a major concern. And so I wanted to express my appreciation to the Provost Office for finding ways to support faculty, especially via these webinars and workshops and additional content for families. But I also wanted to say that we all realize that the Provost Office too realized that the workshops and family events won't fix systemic problems affecting faculty, and the events represent what we can do right now with the immediate resources that we have available, you know, including volunteer time. But so we know the issues related to faculty well-being and burnout are looming and lasting and require systematic change. And so, you know, we're working to resolve some of the problems, but obviously they won't be resolved by the end of the semester. They'll take a long time to kind of unpack and approach and attack. So I've begun meeting with campus mental health experts, as has Ashley Martucci and Emily Murphy. So these health experts and advocates to determine what other kind of support we can provide and how we can continue to focus on faculty mental health concerns post-COVID. And I certainly welcome your feedback and your ideas. But you know what, I think we'll make headway, but it's going to take a long time to kind of just even sift through the rubble. I mean, we're a lot of us are really kind of hurting and struggling right now. As for areas where we have made some visible progress, the university COVID-19 web pages that are not so user-friendly should be more user-friendly soon, very, very soon, thanks to Ian Harmon and Emily Feidelman from the libraries, and with the help from University Relations. So new pages that are more easily navigable should be up soon. And then finally, at the last meeting, I mentioned that Senate leadership and members of the Provost's office would be holding monthly lunchtime meetings with Senate committee chairs. The first lunchtime meeting was on Monday, February 1st, so last Monday, with the chairs of the curriculum committee and with Taco. And the next meeting is on February 15th with inclusion and diversity. So that concludes my report. Are there any questions for me?
Yes.
Okay.
Harvey's.
With
Statler College.
Yes. Okay.
I'm glad the administration are coming back and having those faculty senate lunch or faculty leadership lunches. Jerry Lang, when I was a faculty senate chair, used to have those very regularly every month. Thank you.
Thanks. Any other questions or comments? Okay, so we will move on to the next item, which is the report from the curriculum committee. Jennifer Steele, are you ready?
I am. So I have two annexes for approval. These are a result of our meeting on January 7th. We have since the time had 2 additional meetings. And so the next time around, you're going to see a much longer list for approval. But right now I have Annex 1 new courses and Annex 2 course changes, and I'm happy to take any questions on those.
Questions for the chair of the curriculum committee? Okay, so we'll combine the 2 for approval items into a single votable measure. All those in favor of approving Annex 1, the new course report, and Annex 2, the course changes report, please raise your hand. Oops, I'm calling the vote. I don't know why I was muted. That was weird. Okay, so we have 90 yes votes. Can you clear the hands, Julie? Any opposed? Please raise your hand. Okay, I'm calling the vote. No, okay. So Annex 1 and Annex 2 are approved. Very good. Moving on to the next item. So next we'll hear from our Jeff Committee Chair, Lisa DiBartolomeo.
Hi. First, I should apologize in case you hear something in the background. There's a woman right in front of my house who is having a mental health crisis, and there are about 6 police cars and an ambulance right in front of my house. So please ignore any foul language or screaming that you hear in the background. So at our most recent JeffCo meeting, we discussed the latest slate of the Honors Faculty Fellow Program courses. We passed ENTR 203, so that will be before exec's next meeting. We also discussed plans for how to assess areas 4 through 7. And so we're going to be working on developing some sharper student learning outcomes for those areas, and then figuring out how best to assess those. And that is my report. I'm happy to take any questions. And then I will go back to being somewhat freaked out.
Question for the chair, Jeff? Okay, thanks, Lisa. Okay, next we'll hear from our Committee on Committees Chair, Michael Germano.
Hello, I have one annex for approval. It's Annex 3. These are 2 updated rosters, one for inclusion and diversity, which now has the reintroduction of Lori Andrus to the committee. That's the only change there. And for the Taco Committee, Marina Galvez Peralta is now the chair-elect. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Questions for Michael? Okay, all those in favor of approving Annex 3, please raise your hand. Okay, I'm going to call the vote. Okay, 86 yeses. Julie, can you clear the hands, please? Any opposed, please raise your hand. Okay, Annex 3 is approved. Well, I should have said I was calling the vote. Sorry about that. So there are no votes. So Annex 3 carries. Next is a report from our Teaching and Assessment Committee Chair, Jessica Vanderhoff. Jessica, are you ready?
Yes, thank you, Natalie. Annex 4 provides a summary of a discussion that was held at the January 7th meeting of TACO regarding a motion to request that the open-ended comment questions on the ESCIs are optional for faculty members. That motion was voted down at the most recent executive committee, and it was brought back to TACO to discuss other alternatives to the open-ended comment questions, as well as revisiting the complaint workflow for inappropriate student feedback to make that workflow more comprehensive. So I'm happy to field any questions about that summary or any other questions regarding TACO's initiatives to further advance the assessment of teaching effectiveness.
Questions for TACO Chair? Okay. So next we'll move on to item 10, Shared Governance Committee report from the chair of that ad hoc committee, Scott Critchlow. Scott, are you ready?
Yeah, just wanted to give a quick update about where the committee's work stands for people who have been interested in it. Right now, we're really working on 3 different projects. One is the creation of a more detailed comparison, and especially kind of aimed toward making it more infographic-like or illustrative in terms of where WVU stacks up with other universities in terms of shared governance in various areas. We're also working on a kind of basic best practices document And we're going to be working with the administration on some curriculum matters to sort of see what the nuts and bolts would look like that would have to be moved if the faculty was given more authority over the university's curriculum. And so just like wanted to give you an update of the kinds of things we're working on right now. And possibly the most important thing was that at the last exec meeting, the executive committee approved the committee to exist for another year. So we'll be working into 21-22 as well. Happy to take any questions, but just like wanted people to know where the work on that was standing currently.
So Scott, we did that sort of approval process in the wrong way. So so we have to go back and do it again in exec. So somebody who's a member of exec actually has to make a motion to renew the committee for the next year. So at our next exec meeting, yeah, that was my fault. So at our next exec meeting, we'll have somebody who's a member of an official member of exec make the motion.
All right.
Are there questions for Scott about the shared governance committee work?
Natalie, I thought I had made that motion in exec.
You did. And so you attend exec, but you're not, so like executive committee members, voting members are elected.
I'm not exec. Okay.
So yeah. You're not, you're just not a voting member.
Okay. Thank you.
I wish you were, but yeah, it just didn't work out that way. Okay. So any questions? Okay. So then we will move on. Thanks, Scott. To our report from our faculty representative to state government, Roy Nutter. Roy, are you ready?
I am indeed. Roy Nutter, Statler College and your ACF rep. Got some information from the last ACF meeting that you might be interested in. The Vice Chancellor for Academic Affairs, Corley Dennison of HEPC, gave a legislative report and essentially said there's no big higher education bills in all likelihood this year, that there probably will be a K through 12 bill to bring more control to the legislature over K through 12, is his comment. It'll probably affect or may affect teacher education and bring teacher pay versus performance, was his comment on that one. There is, as President Diaz mentioned, an effort to do tax reform. There will probably, well, I think there's 100% probability now that there will be a bill to eliminate the state income tax, which is 47% of the West Virginia income. It's about $2 billion with a B dollars that would be eliminated and would have to be found somewhere. There's talk of adding a value added tax, which is kind of a sales tax. Value added tax just puts essentially sales tax on other things that don't have it now, like lawyer fees and barbers and professionals, I guess. So that remains to be seen what happens, but that's one of the estimates was that the sales tax would need to go to 10% if we're going to eliminate state income tax and use this as the only replacement for elimination of state income tax. K through 12 and highways is 75% of the budget. So you can guess where probably some of the cuts will come from. The legislature will meet beginning tomorrow night with the governor's State of the State address, I presume. I didn't check that, but I'm pretty sure that will occur, and that will be tomorrow evening. Usually it's on public television if you want to watch it. It's an interesting thing to pay attention to. COVID-19 is throwing all kinds of curves at the legislature. One of them is spacing of people. The Senate probably isn't much of a problem, but the House people are jammed in there, and they're planning to use, as I understand it, the balconies for some of the House members, which means there would be no public access to the House sessions. And I think now they've said no public access to the Capitol. The House session and Senate sessions are all streamed, and so we can watch them there. They have been streamed for several years, so probably no change other than they're spacing the members out. There will also be committee meetings will be virtual. The way I understand it, they will not meet in person, but they will be kind of Zoom meetings. Presume they will use Zoom or something like Zoom. And they need to meet by a constitution for 60 days. Now, that 60 days can be distributed over the year. So some of the thinking, and I probably haven't heard the latest, some of the thinking was that they would meet immediately and meet for a couple days and then go home, meet online, do their committee meetings, come back for 2 or 3 days, and then go home and do that spread out maybe even through the end of the summer. So this session will be different in a big way. There was a question about the CARES Act and whether money is coming to higher education in it. Excuse me, the last I heard was 24 billion with a B, going to higher education, I presume countrywide, not West Virginia. Another comment from the Vice Chancellor. The fall 21 enrollment, they're very concerned about for higher education. FAFSA applications are down. Promise applications are down significantly. I noticed in today's governor's, I watch his 3-day-a-week press conference, and one of the things that was advertised on there was students have till March 1 to turn in promise applications. That's a big problem with the high schools not really being in session. There's nobody pushing the kids. There was another thing that came up that I found interesting. Remember, one of the things we're doing is trying to, well, I say we, the state legislature is trying to do, eliminate the income tax. And the reason to do that is to attract more people in business to West Virginia. Interesting statistic that somebody dug up, and I checked it today. It's true. It's a U-Haul statistic of all things, and their migration trends. Where are U-Hauls going? And the top 3 states are those without income tax. Tennessee, number 1, Texas, number 2, and Florida, number 3. And West Virginia, right now, of all things, is number 16. So something's going on. People are coming to West Virginia. Let's hope we can continue to do that. The only other thing that I thought I might mention is ACF is currently having a discussion, gets rather rowdy at times, about evaluation of Board of Governors members. Apparently Board of Governors members, not apparently, they are appointed by the governor to each school. And some of the school faculty don't think they're doing their jobs. And so the question was, how can an evaluation of Board of Governors members be done, and maybe by faculty? So that's up in the air. We'll see where that goes. Probably nowhere quickly would be my guess, but it's something to think about. Completes my report, Natalie. Questions?
It looks like you've got a couple questions in the chat, but is there anybody who'd like to ask Roy questions directly?
I could pick up on the chat while the rest of them think about it, I guess.
Yeah.
First one I see is clarify connection between teacher pay and performance. I cannot, other than that was the comment made by the vice chancellor. My presumption is that something is planned in the legislature. So if you're tied into the teacher K through 12 people, you might want to ask that question. I have a feeling they're probably well up on it. They are usually on top of everything. Second one I see, well, that's kind of the same question. That is the same question.
Yeah, and then there's one more.
Do you anticipate any legislation on campus carrying? I do not. I don't see anything going on, and I wouldn't be surprised that if a bill will probably land, but the way the legislature seems to be acting is primarily things first. Remember, there are hundreds and hundreds of bills that are submitted to the legislature at the beginning. So Wednesday, there will be this big drop of a huge bunch of bills. I would not be surprised to see a bill in there. If it makes it from there out of a committee, I will be surprised, but it remains to be seen. Do you anticipate legislation on campus carry? Well,
yeah,
probably, but I don't know that there will be anything more than we've seen before.
Thanks. Are there any other questions? Okay, so we'll move on to our next item, our Board of Governors report from Stan Harmon.
So we have not met since the last time the Faculty Senate met, so I don't have a report, but we are actually meeting this Wednesday. So I'll let you know what happens at that.
Okay, thank you. Is there any new business? I see one hand up. Okay, Parviz, go ahead.
Parviz Famuri from Statler College. I suggest we only have 2 or 3 meetings before COVID is over. That we do what we do in our college, at least I think Paul Krishka, is Zoom. Everybody turn on your camera before the meeting for 1 minute and say hi. That's it. Do I have to make a motion for that?
No, you and I can talk about it. We can figure something out.
Do it right now.
Or we could. We could, but let's see about other new business first. Okay, so there's a second hand up. Scott, go ahead.
So this goes back to the earlier vaccine conversation. But I've got to say, I'm really disturbed by the one lack of knowledge that the administrators seem to have about what's going to happen to their faculty, like a life or death matter. I'm very disturbed by the inability to sort of say if we're going to still follow to like 1D, et cetera. And there seems to be like no responsibility at all. Like the administration's choice is to take away modality control from faculty. Like they could fix the face-to-face problem. I mean, there doesn't have to be a situation where if you're unvaccinated, you have to teach. It's y'all's choice to do so. So I don't think it's appropriate to throw this entirely on the state. That's all I have to say. I'm just really very disappointed by this. That's all I have to say.
Thanks, Scott. Is there a response or?
Yeah, I mean, I can respond. Gordon, do you want to respond?
Well, Scott, that's an unfair statement. As I've only said it about 4 times, that if we could vaccinate everyone, we would. Secondly, we've spent a lot of time over the last period of time saying follow the science, and we are following the science, and clearly the CDC, everyone involved in this talks about in-person classroom teaching and the lack of any evidence that it is dangerous. And I myself taught, Scott, And so I think that we're trying to do everything we possibly can, and to say that we have no concern about that is untrue. On the other hand, we do know that we want to get our students back into the classroom as quickly as we possibly can. We know that that's essential for the financial and for the cultural success of the university. And so we are just following the science, and I would suggest that that's a good position to be in right now.
And Scott, to suggest that we have control over the supply that we're receiving from the state, that's just erroneous. I mean, we do not have control over that. There is a limited supply, and we are following state guidelines, and we're also listening to our healthcare professionals. I mean, it's not ignorance. It's simply, this is what we are being told, and we are trying to work within those guidelines.
I'm not saying you have control over the vaccine supply. I'm saying you have control over forcing unvaccinated faculty into the classroom for months on end, in classes where there's all of one desk in between students. I mean, just because something bad hasn't happened yet doesn't mean it's not going to.
Well, Scott, look, I don't want to interrupt you, but I just did. So you know, we can talk about this around and around. We're not forcing anyone. If someone has something very specific that they have to that they want to bring to the attention, then we'll follow it. On the other hand, we are following the science, and it says if you follow the damn protocols, that there is little, if any, chance of there being a transmission. And if you have a specific issue that you want to bring to us in which it shows differently, then please do it. But don't keep making that kind of a statement. You're engaging in fear.
And I want to interrupt because President Gee, it's not science. It's science and art.
Absolutely.
And there is an art in keeping the business going, and there is a science to keep
so Parviz, I'm sorry, you're out of order. And
okay, sorry, I'm done.
Okay, so
yeah. Well, you know, I certainly agree again that we have to do everything we possibly can. We don't control the supply. We live with our own health protocols. We have the experts. We rank the best in the country in terms of what we've been doing. So let's just follow what our healthcare professionals and what the protocols are about. And as I say, if there's someone who needs to have special dispensation, then we take care of that, and that's exactly what we do. But to continue to have this notion that for some reason or other that we as university administration are forcing people to do something that is dangerous is just not the case.
Well, I also want to add that the departments had a large say in what classes that they felt should be delivered person to person and which should be delivered face to face.
Well, but also those data points for that process of scheduling are put in like in September when things weren't nearly so bad. I mean, all I'm saying
actually they were a lot worse in September than they are now.
Yeah.
No, that's not accurate.
It is accurate based on our population for sure,
yes.
Scott. For sure. We had 1,500 students that were isolating or in quarantining back in September. We have a fraction of that right now.
Oh, well, so like right when school started, sure, but when the numbers for the time period like when we're actually putting in the class requests. But all I'm saying is that y'all have the power not to force unvaccinated faculty who are fearful to the classroom. Y'all have that power. And yet, you know, you're saying some handful of them people might be worthy of some exemption. But
not worthy. People who have demonstrated they have a pre-existing condition, Scott.
Well, I still just think you're being very, very reckless, and I don't appreciate it.
Well, Scott, I think you're being very reckless. I'm just going to be clear about it. You're being reckless by keep saying that when you're not following when you're not engaging and following what the guidelines are about. And you know, and our safety protocols have been among the best in the country. There is no one who has contacted it in the classroom that has any evidence in that regard. So don't keep bringing up recklessness when what is really reckless is if we do not try to make certain that we create an environment in our campus in which fear does not overcome logic. And I think that's important for you to do. If you have a reason you don't want to teach, then come and see me and I'll talk to you about it, okay? But beyond that, I think that we, you know, at some point we have to understand that we are all a community. We all have responsibility. I have responsibility for everyone at this institution in terms of their safety, and we're trying to do the very best we can. I also have the responsibility to make certain that we teach well, that we keep our students here, we keep them engaged, and that we have a responsibility to the people of the state. And we're living with the guidelines and doing it, I think, with great cause, and have been very successful at it. And so I would prefer to think about what we've done right rather than constantly bringing up the notion of being reckless. And if anyone's being reckless, it's not us. I would say that it's those who want to continue to say that we're being reckless.
Okay, so it's, you know, based on kind of the conversations in the chat and the conversation going on right now, it does seem to me like another town hall or a town hall or a campus conversation is necessary. Ideally, a town hall kind of situation where folks can have a dialogue. So that's what I believe we should work toward. I'm going to move on to other new business. So I won't be taking additional questions from the floor about this particular issue, or the issue related to vaccines. So if there is other new business, so Julie, would you mind clearing the hands? So if there's, yeah, thank you. So if there's other new business, I will take it now. Okay, so there is something in the chat. Amy Hessel asked for a reminder about protocols, who to contact if protocols aren't being followed, and Evan posted a link in the chat. Okay. All right. So if there is no new business, is there a motion to adjourn? Okay.
So move. Turn on your camera. Let's see everybody.
Let's do it.
You have to. I mean, if you haven't taken a shower, that's okay.
No, let's do it next time. Is there a second?
Oh, I mean, they can do. Okay, fine.
Yes. Okay. All right. Well, thanks everybody for your time today. It was under 2 hours. That's what I can say. Our meeting was under 2 hours.
Good job.
All right. Thanks everybody. See you next time.